Good morning, everybody. It's a nice, bright and early Thursday morning. Coming at you from, I don't know, a couple days before Sunday when the couple of final matches are going to be happening on the Jordan's channel on YouTube. Shout out to him. But, yeah, I know, okay, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned a bunch of times. Been here for 3 seasons now. Haven't done a pre or post draft review. But guess what? It's time. I'm mostly going to be touching upon this season, the current season, that will be ending shortly. But there's a brief 1-slide review each of the past 2 seasons that I've been in as well. But yeah, this is 3 seasons of joy, VBL-S Draft League. I was very excited to make this. I put quite a bit of time into it, which is also why it's been taking so long. Specifically, the last slide took me a lot of time because I've had not too much practice with it, but we'll get to that when we get there. But I'm also gonna try and not make this take 10 years. Some of my match videos tend to be like 45 minutes because I talk a lot in between turns. Also because my brain isn't that fast, so not stupid, okay? I'm a thinker, okay? Not a fast one. But yeah, this is VBL-S Draft League. 3 seasons of joy. As you can tell by the word joy in the title, it has been joyous indeed. I've loved every minute of this, being in this draft league. And it's, what is it? March 16th right now? We're coming up in about a month. It'll have been my 1-year anniversary of joining the league. So, and what a whirlwind year it's been. But anyway, let's get into it before I take 500 years on the title slide and completely go against what I said I was gonna do already anyway. Oh, okay. First up, the first Pokemon I drafted this season, Kingambit. Okay. Fantastic Mon. I have a bunch of stats for each of the, well, spoilers, 9 of the 11 Mons, because 2 of them didn't show up during the season. Well, 1 was brought but never used. But that's besides the point. Anyway, Kingambit here. I'll probably try not to take too long on these slides, but if you feel like looking at the stats more in depth, then you can always pause and take a look for yourself. But yeah, Kingambit, as you can see, the 8 for the 8 in all the graphs, the 0 through 8 is how many weeks of the season I participated in. So 7 regular season weeks and then 1 quarterfinals match in playoffs. So that's what 8 weeks stands for. But yeah, so half of those weeks I ran Life Orb, 3 of those were Citrus Berry, and then 1 was Lum. So really not a whole lot of item differential here on Kingambit. Item differences, I guess I should say, on Kingambit. It was hard for me to find other items to run because he doesn't really have... He's decently bulky, but he doesn't really have any reliable recovery, so Citrus Berry, 3 out of the 8 weeks was pretty solid to keep me out of 2-shot range. And then he's, with the 135 base attack stat, he does a lot of damage, so Life Orb seemed pretty solid in some weeks where I could just OHKO Mons just from brute force. And then one of those weeks was Lumberry because I had a feeling he was going to get burned or something. But Terra, he's had 5 different Terra types that I used this season. 3 of those 8 were Ghost type, and then 2 of those 8 were Fairy. So Ghost Fairy makes up over half of the Terra types over the course of the weeks. Both, I think, mostly because he's quad weak to fighting. So 1 is immune to fighting, but if I was worried about changing into a Ghost type and they had some strong Dark types, then Fairy was the better choice there. So, but also Dark, probably just for stab. Water, I think, for, Water and Flying were for matchups. Flying also resists fighting, but Water was probably just for... That may have been the Dondoza week, I'm not sure. I don't remember. But then, if you notice the moves up top, I ran Protect and Sucker Punch literally every week. And then Kato, Cleave, and Iron Head were on 6 of the 8 weeks, and then Brick Break, Terra Blast, Taunt, Swords Dance were, occasionally used 1 time each. So, I think Kingambit was fantastic this season. I think the main issue with him is that he doesn't really have a super wide move pool that is useful. He's a pretty cut and dry mon. He wants to use his stabs and he wants to deal big damage, and that's pretty much it. So the upside is he's really good at that. The downside is that he is pretty predictable. So take this information as you will. Next up, we got Ceruledge, who appeared in 7 of the 8 weeks. And I ran an assortment of items on him. 2 weeks were Clear Amulet, 2 were Life Orb, 1 was Assault Vest, 1 was Leftovers, and 1 was Focus Sash. I think I ran Focus Sash on him towards the end of the season when I was sick of him getting one shot. So if that tells you anything about this mon and how I feel about it, we will get to that. And then there's only been 3 different Terra types that I ran this season. I was kind of surprised, but looking back, it was pretty interesting to see. Terra Grass is pretty popular in the VGC format, at least when people run him on ladder, just due to having Flash Fire. And then I've also ran Fairy and Ghost 2 weeks each, so a pretty even split across the board from the weeks that I used him for the Terra types that I used on him. And similar to Kingambit, I ran Bitterblade and Shadow Sneak every single week on Ceruledge. I mean, Bitterblade is unique to him, so I feel like it was hard for me not to bring it just because Ceruledge usually wants the recovery, and it's a pretty solid stab move. On top of that, it's just better Drain Punch and Fire type. And then Priority is always good to have. There were some weeks where I kind of get smoked, like my game 3 against Sora. Smoked me in one turn, two of my 4 mons with double Priority when I thought I had speed advantage. So Priority is always really solid to have. And then the rest of his moves were like Protect down, as you can see on the screen. He's got a pretty solid move pool. He's got a lot of options. Spoilers, my main issue with him is that I don't think I knew how to use him well. I always wanted to bring him, and in theory, he always had a pretty solid matchup, but for some reason, he just didn't really do anything. But yeah, he's a fun mon. I think he's probably just better either in someone else's hands, or maybe they can learn from my mistakes and this information on here. Maybe there was a bunch of stuff that I did not try. Like maybe the bulk upset is better than I gave it credit for, and I should have ran it more than twice. I don't know. But yeah, Ceruledge, cool mon, great typing. Definitely got some good stuff going for it. I just don't know how to use it, I guess, but we'll get to that later. My third draft pick was Noivern, who I was very excited to use, especially after watching Poppin go bonkers, and I'm pretty sure he went undefeated last season, all the way up to the grand finals against Tay. But yeah, Noivern's got a great speed set. 123 is fantastic, especially in this format. Before the Paradox Mons and Ruins were added, I think he was like the 5th fastest or 6th fastest mon, and one of the fastest. I think one of the top like 3 or 4 Tailwind setters. And then having Frisk as an ability is incredible. I get to just see 2 items right off the bat, which information is power. But I did bring him 6 of the 8 weeks. And 3 of those 6 weeks, so half were Covert Cloak, which, makes sense because if you're gonna fake out a mon, you're probably gonna fake out a fast support mon that wants to either set Tailwind or Trick Room or whatever speed control that you're trying to set. The opponent doesn't really want to give that to you for free. So, and then the other weeks were Rocky Helmet, which was from a match against Tay because he had Mouse Hold, and then Habanberry against Poppin. To deal with Haxorus, who ended up running a nerve anyway, so the item was useless. And then Yachi Berry was for my quarterfinals match against Braff for Frostlass, who didn't end up showing up, so also another useless item. But yeah, Noivern's pretty cool. It's got surprising moves. It's got like Wild Charge, which I didn't end up needing. I know Poppin made use of it last season into I think Steve's Mantine, I think is what it was. Which was pretty sick to see. But yeah, and then Terra Flying was mostly just for additional stab when I was running Air Slash, or if I ended up next to Mudsdale, if I decided I wanted to Terra Noivern for whatever reason, which, spoilers, I never did. I never really found a good reason to. I would still be immune to ground moves like Earthquake and stuff. And then Steel is obviously we've seen so many mons, so many dragon types specifically run Terra Steel, great defensive typing. And then Fairy and Dragon were probably... Dragon was probably another stab, kind of like flying, where I wanted to power up Draco Meteor if I needed it, but I didn't end up needing it. And then Terra Fairy was also, I guess, probably for dealing with other Dragon moves. But yeah, I ran Draco Meteor and Tailwind every single week. Tailwind, obviously, I feel like if you're bringing Noivern, you're probably going to want Tailwind as an option. And then Draco Meteor is just a really high power stab move, so I feel like it's hard not to find a move slot for it. Super Fang was also on 4 of the 6 weeks. Super Fang's really good. The 90 accuracy kind of sucks, and if you miss, it can bone you because Noivern's not super bulky unless you invest really heavily in it. But being able to cut your opponent's HP in half, regardless of, you know, whatever, even if they resist or whatever, it doesn't matter. Half damage. That's pretty solid. That can allow Noivern to set up for its partner to take it out, whatever the threat is. So, like, it was good for me into, well, I mean, I didn't take out Poppin. I keep bringing up Poppin, but a lot of these items and matchups were relevant, and plus it was, you know, only like 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I super fanged into Slowbro, and then my Jolteon went for a Thunderbolt, and it just barely lived with Wakanberry. So stuff like that. Normally you can like guarantee some 2-hit KOs just between Super Fang and another move, which can be really useful to remove a mon that would otherwise be extremely difficult to take off the field. And then you can see the other move slots were Protect U-Turn, Boom Burst, Taunt, Whirlwind, just for like Trick Room stuff and Boom Burst is just really high power. I didn't really use Boom Burst much. Maybe I could have better used that next to like Ceruledge or something. But hindsight's 20/20. All right, next up we got Jolteon, who was the 130 base stat speedster on my team, who helped round out my speed tiers. But I only ended up bringing it twice. The items were Wide Lens and Focus Sash. Focus Sash is obvious; it's not very tanky at all. So it kind of needs a sash if you have that item to spare. Wide Lens should have actually been loaded dice looking back, because I ran Pin Missile 1 week, which you can see Terra Bug as one of the 2 Terra types, Bug and Electric. For Jolteon, Electric's pretty self-explanatory. And then the Bug was for Meowscarada into Sora's team, just in case it used its Protean ability to switch to either a Grass or a Dark type, which are both of its stabs anyway, but I wanted to make sure I had an option or a way to cover that, to OHKO it, because I was pretty positive it was going to run Sash. But yeah, Wide Lens increases the accuracy of how many times, or of Pin Missile hitting. It just doesn't help how many times it hits, which should have been loaded dice. So, because then it would have allowed it to hit 4 or 5 times, assuming the move did not miss. But yeah, and then the move slots were Detect, Thunderbolt, Pin Missile, Thunder Wave, Discharge, Shadow Ball. So Detect, Thunderbolt came both weeks. Those are 2 staples on it, and then, you know, the other 2 move slots are up to you, whether you want Spread Damage and Discharge, Shadow Ball for coverage, or Thunder Wave for speed control, or Pin Missile if you have a very specific target that you want to hit with it, because otherwise I don't know why you would run it. But yeah, that was Jolteon. Number 5 was Mudsdale, who was the wall on my team for quite a few matches of the season. I brought it 5 of the 8 weeks, 4 of which were leftovers, which, you know, exemplifies how tanky I wanted it to be, and then Lumberry 1 week specifically for Will-O-Wisps. And also I think I also used it just in case I wanted to click Rest, which I think I ended up getting put to sleep and then healed, and then I slept myself for Guarantee 2 is probably how that went. But yeah, mostly it was just leftovers. Terra Water was really good. I remember I ran it 1 week for Dondozo, and then I think I ran another week too to counter another type that wanted to hit it for, I don't know, probably water damage into Mudsdale. So I Terra Water, and then it's all of a sudden resisted. But also fighting for Body Press Stab. Ghost, I ran 1 week to dodge Fake Out, and I don't remember why I ran Ghost. Probably, yeah, I don't remember. Maybe just Fake Out, but that seems like a bad Terra to run just for Fake Out on Mudsdale. And then Grass also to resist water. So All 5 weeks I ran high horsepower, body press, and iron defense. So there you go. Iron defense, body press, baby. Plus stamina. This thing's got some insane defensive boosting capabilities. And then 3 of those weeks were rest, and then 2 of those weeks were protect. And Endeavor was also for the Dondozo team. I don't think it ended up mattering. I never ended up clicking Endeavor, but that was just in case I got under Trick Room. And my Mudsdale was at low HP, I could bring it down to, I could bring the Dondozo down to 1 or low HP in general. But yeah, Mudsdale was fantastic. Every team I've seen it on over the past couple of seasons has been very strong. Mudsdale is just a good Pokemon. Ooh, and then we got the second king on my team, Slowking. This thing came every single week, all 8 weeks. 3 of those were Covert Cloak, kind of like Noivern. Noivern used Covert Cloak 3 weeks. Slowking also ran it 3 weeks. So obviously that's like 6 weeks of having a Covert Cloak on the team. Which makes sense because it's really good for speed control setters, whether it be like if you want to click like Icy Wind or Trick Room, Tailwind, whatever you want. Covert Cloak's really solid so that you can't get flinched or fake outed, you know, all that good stuff. And then Slowking's Oblivious ability also makes it immune to taunt, so it was really good at setting Trick Room, and it just has some really good bulk. The other items I ran, the other 5, Aguav, Wakan, Kasib, Citrus, and then leftovers were all just to, you know, promote survivability. And then Terra types, 3 of which were Dragon, so Slowking's weak to Grass and Electric. Dragon resists both of those. It also removes its Psychic typing, so it makes it no longer weak to Dark and Ghost, which is nice. Water type just for stab damage, which I never ended up needing it, and I think I ran Water in some matchups where I wasn't really worried about super effective damage into him. Steel and Dark were both defensive typings to make sure I could get, you know, my Trick Room up and whatever. And then Ice was the 1 week that I ran Chilly Reception against Sora, just so I could get if I decided to Terra, I would get a defense boost on Slowking. Didn't end up coming to pass, but it was a cool idea anyway. I did run Trick Room all 8 of the weeks on Slowking, and then the rest Chilling Water, which is 4, Yawn 3, all the way down. This thing has an insane move pool. Definitely worth drafting. I was very happy with it. It was an anchor to my team this season. Yeah, insane move pool. So like I could kind of just do whatever I wanted with it, which makes it really fun. Really fun experience to use. My pride and joy, Frosmoth. I brought it for 3 weeks. 2 of which had leftovers. Frosmoth, I think, used to get Roost in a prior gen, but it no longer has that. So it doesn't really have any solid recovery. So leftovers is kind of necessary for it to continue gaining HP when it's hiding behind ice scales. And then also safety goggles 1 week was for Amoonguss. And its 3 Terra types are Fire, Electric, and Water. Electric to remove all weaknesses but 1, which would be Ground. Just to make use of Ice Shield again. Like any neutral hit that's special in a Frosmoth is halved. Fire type to resist, you know, the obvious fire moves. The only downside is that fire is still weak to rock, which rock types are going to be pretty common into Frosmoth because it's quad weak. And then water, which removes a lot of its weaknesses as well, such as fire. But and then only gives it 2 weaknesses, which is electric and grass. So basically electric and water were Terra types that were solid offensively into just like for coverage sake, but also along with Ice Beam, because I think I ran that most weeks. Or at least, yeah, most of the 3 weeks. 2 of the 3 weeks I ran Ice Beam. Terra Blast I ran all three times that I had it. Just because basically if you're bringing Frosmoth, it's probably gonna Terra it. Just because its Bug Ice type is pretty bad defensively. And then Protect, Ice Beam, Calm Mind. I know Calm Mind's weird to see twice over Quiver Dance once. Calm Mind was specifically on when I wanted it to be one of my Trick Room sweepers. It's got like 65 base speed, I believe. So I would just run like minus speed nature. And that's usually on teams that don't really have, I think I ran that against teams that didn't have a super great Trick Room matchup. And, you know, I didn't want to boost my speed with Quiver Dance, so I ran Calm Mind instead, which just does the same thing. But yeah, really cool mon. Wide Guard is unique tech to it, even though I got locked into it. I'm never going to let this go. I got locked into it against week 6 against your boy. Although, you know, he played very creatively to make it happen. But yeah, Frosmoth, really cool mon. Very happy I got the chance to draft it. You know, we'll see whose hands it ends up in next season. But I was fairly happy with this mon. I brought it 3 times just because it's very matchup dependent, but I was very happy with it overall. Gardevoir, another mon who I was very happy with to end up on my team. I ran Choice Scarf 3 of the week, so it's got 80 base speed, so it falls into that middling section where it's like not quite good fast, not quite good slow, so like it either needs Tailwind or needs to like run like Room Service or Iron Ball or something, or one of like the power items to have its speed if you want it to be under Trick Room. But a lot of times I think I just ran Gardevoir on the speedy side with Choice Scarf in order to also trick it off to the opponent so that they, you know, if I trigger Choice Scarf onto their Trick Room setter, then they're locked into Trick Room and also faster. And then 2 of those weeks, 2 of the 6 were Focus Sash. Gardevoir is not physically bulky at all. It's got some good special bulk, but physically not really at all, so Sash was to make sure I could take a hit. And then Life Orb 1 week, when I knew I'm pretty sure I was positive I would have speed control, just for big damage. Terra Steel, 3 weeks, 3 of the 6, Ghost 2 of the weeks, and Water 1 of those weeks. I don't remember why I ran the Water. I think Ghost I used twice with Scarf in order to be able to Terra and dodge Fake Out if necessary. And also I think one of those weeks I ran it paired next to the 1 week I ran Boom Burst Noivern just as an option. And then the other 3 weeks for Terra Steel were just defensive typing. Gardevoir, for its moveset, I ran... It's pretty varied overall. I think I ran, you know, Protect, Moonblast, Mystical Fire were 4 of the 6 weeks, so nothing that crazy. And then D-Gleam was 3 of the weeks. Trick was 3 of the weeks, but having access to Trick Room, and then like you can do Scarf Icy Wind, Psyshock, Grass Knot. It has a pretty solid move pool as well. So I was very happy with what this mon can do. And Psychic Fairy is, you know, Psychic's nothing incredible, but Fairy type is. So it brings it up. This mon is pretty solid, and Trace is just a fun ability, or Telepathy, honestly, whatever you want. This mon's got a lot going for it. I was very happy with it. And then Ditto. Ditto only showed up 2 weeks. 2 of the 8 weeks. One of them running Iron Ball so that I could copy Amoonguss and then underspeed it in Trick Room. And then the other one was Focus Sash. And I believe I copied Braff's Grimmsnarl in quarterfinals. I ran Terra Steel and Terra Electric. Terra Steel was just for a nice defensive typing if I decided I wanted to Terra. I ran that against Heaven's Amoonguss, and then Terra Electric was against Braff. I think I just wanted to minimize its weaknesses, so if I used Terra Electric, I would only be weak to ground. And then the moves, obviously, were whatever it ended up seeing. So, Amoonguss and Grimmsnarl's movesets from those 2 weeks. But, yeah, Ditto was a lot of fun. It forces your opponent to be aware of their own stat changes, because Ditto can just come in and copy them. I specifically grabbed it. I knew it was still available, obviously, when it got back to me round 9 during the draft, and I wanted to pick it up just because I knew Dondozo Tatsugiri were going to be kind of scary, and I feel like having a Ditto kind of makes it... I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't even know if Ditto wins that stall war, just because it has like 5 PP in all stats, and then also not 150 HP or whatever its HP stat is. It's got like 40 HP, so Ditto might even still lose that matchup, but I think the benefit to copying Dondozo on those stats is that I can still have a second one on the field, so that's kind of where my head was at when I drafted it. And then Passimian and Naclstack, my rounds 10 and 11. I did not end up using Passimian. I heavily considered multiple weeks, but it was fighting for Scarf usage with Gardevoir, so anytime I wanted to bring Scarf Gardevoir, I really couldn't find a good spot for Passimian. I didn't really run Assault Vest that much this season. There weren't a lot of special attackers that scared me. there were a lot of really strong physical attackers, so I feel like, and I think I want to protect on a lot of mons over the course of the weeks, so it's hard for me to find a spot for me to use Passimian, because he's also got like 80 speed, just like Gardevoir. So he's kind of in like that same vein, and I feel like special attackers were more, Gardevoir at least being a special attacker was a little more useful a lot of the time. And plus I like already had Defiant on Kingambit, so it's not even like I could run a sneaky Defiant on Passimian. It's because everyone was expecting, or at least prepared for Defiant Kingambit. So I don't know. Passimian was a really cool draft pick. I was happy to have it. I just didn't have the team space to use it. There was always, you know, another mon that I think kind of fit better. And then Naclstack I did actually bring 1 week. He was in my 6, but I didn't end up using him, so I didn't bother including the stats. He's just going to do what Gardevoir does, except maybe a little worse, which is protect, recover, assault cure, iron defense, or like body press or whatever. Something along those lines. But really cool mon. I mean, Purifying Salt's a pretty sick ability. You know, providing a ghost type resist and then also being immune to status. So I was very happy to draft these two mons. I was very happy with my overall draft team, but yeah, I didn't end up getting to use these two. Sometimes that just happens. Matchup based. All right, next up, we got kill leaders and some stats. Okay, these. So first of all, I just want to say with the little star asterisk symbol there, I self-added the match data from quarterfinals versus Braff. It wasn't in the doc when I looked, so I just rewatched the matches and did it and updated this myself. The rows without an asterisk are accurate as of the doc, and strictly because those mons didn't come to my playoffs match. But yeah, as you can see, the rank would obviously shift with these updated stats, so those numbers are, the asterisk numbers are tentative. But Kingambit and Slowking were both brought every single game, or at least they showed up to every single possible game, whether or not I used them. In terms of games played, Kingambit was 17 out of 20. So there were only 3 games all season where I did not use him. I mean, he's got fantastic stats. He's super strong. So it's no surprise that I ended up bringing him. And also no surprise that he's my kill leader at 15 by a hefty margin. He's basically double my next 2 kill leaders, which are Gardevoir and Mudsdale, both with 8. That being said, he also has 14 deaths to his 15 kills, which honestly isn't that bad. For a mon like Kingambit, like at least being able to 1-for-1 every week is pretty solid. Maybe in your ace you would hope that it can more than 1-for-1, but I think the counter to that is, or counter argument to that is that everyone's going to prepare for your first round pick, probably because it's your best mon arguably. So everyone, you know, is going to prepare for Kingambit, so they're going to have answers and ways to kill him. So honestly, being at 15 kills, 14 deaths for a +1 differential, pretty good. Pretty good. I was very happy with him. He's super strong mon, and clearly I believe that too, considering how often I brought him. Let's see, kills, deaths. Okay, we got to talk about Ceruledge for a second. I think I mentioned earlier that I don't think I used him to his fullest potential, and you know, maybe he'd be better in someone else's hands, but my experience with Ceruledge is he just dies. That might have been a me thing. Looking back, Ceruledge was like a lead for a lot of games over the course of the season, just because he's immune to fake out, and a lot of teams had access to fake out, so I wanted to make sure I didn't give them that option. He also has access to quick guard. He can set up with like bulk up, swords dance. He's got some fun tech, but there were a lot of weeks where he would be on the field and he would just get smoked. So I don't know. I found him very difficult to use because if you can't get him set up, he doesn't deal that much damage, and you know his speed is 85, which isn't bad, but it basically requires you know, some speed support. You know, like maybe I should have run Scarf and left Gardevoir on the bench some weeks. I don't know. Ceruledge was just like, I don't know. He's prone to getting hit with Intimidates, unless you run Clear Amulet, which I did a couple weeks. But I don't know. For me, Ceruledge was the most disappointing mon on my team that was used. Obviously, I'm not going to count Passimian and Naclstack because I didn't use them, but Ceruledge was cool, and clearly, I mean, I brought him a lot. He was the second most brought mon to games, 18 out of 20. But, and he played 16 out of those 18. So, like, when I brought him, I was pretty much using him. Like I said, he was a lead a lot of the time. And maybe that was the issue. Maybe he was, because I was leading him a lot, he just didn't, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he would have been better in the back once I removed some of his answers, and then he could go to town. I'm not sure. But yeah, 7 kills to 15 deaths. He has the most deaths on my team. Yeah, not -8 differential. By far the worst on my team. Yeah, not great. Not great. I don't know. Very cool mon. Fantastic typing. It's got a lot going for it. What I think is it's probably just user error. I'm sure there's a good way to use this mon. I'm sure someone in the league, plenty of people in the league, I'm sure can make use of Ceruledge far better than I did. But for me, it was not a match made in heaven. Let's put it that way. On the right hand side here, I have a little bit of thumbs up, a little bit of a yellow question mark, and a thumbs down. Ceruledge, you already got my opinion on that. That's why I guess the thumbs down for me. Probably not going to draft it again. In the middle there, I didn't include all the drafted mons. There's quite a few mons. Like I just wanted to highlight a couple. Frosmoth and Jolteon were both either a +1 or a split or a net 0 differential. So like Frosmoth was brought to 8 games. Played 5 of them, and then had 4 kills, 4 deaths. The matchups where Frosmoth was good, it was very good. If I could remove the physical attackers, the thing is just a wall and extremely hard to remove. Plus it gets set up with Quiver Dance and then just start sweeping. And then Jolteon has a fantastic speed tier for the format, with access to like Charm and Eerie Impulse and Thunderbolt. Even though I didn't use either of those 2 stat reducing moves, it has access to them, which is nice. It also gets like Light Screen. Really strong stab. It's just it's pretty fast and strong electric type. The only downside is it's being fast and relatively strong. It means it's frail. So, but both of these mons, the only reason it has the yellow question mark is that I don't think they're bad by any means. I think they're good. I think they're just very situational. Like you're not gonna bring them every week, and they're not gonna be useful every week. So that's kind of why they're in the middle tier there. And then Kingambit and Slowking, the 2 kings of my team. Both incredible mons. I would recommend, I think anyone would be happy to draft them. Slowking has an insane move pool, really solid defensive stats, honestly a solid offensive special attack stat too. Or physically, he's got like 75 base attack if you want to run belly drum like a maniac. You can do that too. He gets like all the elemental punches or something. He gets a lot of moves. And he's a fantastic Trick Room setter just because he's auto-immune to taunt with Oblivious. And then Kingambit obviously is just great stats, not bad typing unless you're in the face of a fighting type, and then some really strong moves. So the only downside to Kingambit, I think, is that he is limited in what he can do. He's pretty straightforward. He either sets up Iron Defense or Swords Dance and then just starts beating the crap out of people, and that's what he does. So mons like Gardevoir would probably be in the middle tier, just because, and like Ditto, both of which are kind of like matchup specific. Mudsdale, I think I would put in the top tier. Even though Mudsdale came to 5 out of 8 weeks, it was very solid in all of them. Mudsdale's always a great mon, and then I think Noivern would also be between like middle and upper tier for the chart I have on the right. Just because like the weeks where Tailwind is really good, it's an auto bring. Plus it's get some good support moves and stuff. So yeah, Kingambit MVP, and the mon I would be most likely to drop and or not pick up again would be Ceruledge. So next up, we got a quick review of Season 6. The Daddy Plan Part 1 from Sword and Shield. You can see the team listed at the bottom there, and the point values that I paid for each mon, and then how much I spent. Spoiler, I always spend all my points. Which, you know, I just think I tend to find pretty good resources within, you know, whatever points I have left at the end of the season. So, not spending all your points is totally fine too if you like your team. You can see I've posted all 7 weeks here and the win-loss, and then also the record for the match included. I'm just gonna go over the season record. It was 2-5. I won 4 games. I lost 11 games. So, and a lot of these matches were blowouts. Like every game I lost was 0-2. Like I didn't even take a game. So all 5 losses were just 0-2. There were a couple of reasons, I think, for me going 2-5. This being my first draft league season, I did not use the Ballhawk document, which has like a bunch of information on like available moves, the type chart. It's got all the abilities listed at your disposal right there, so you don't have to like scour the internet to like make your own document with abilities and such. It's all just right there for you to see. So the type chart, my own personal type chart for my team, I really didn't have like a great way to visualize it for this first season. So a lot of the time I was just using like my own my own brain space to be like, oh, you know, Landorus is weak to ice. Okay, Volcarona, you know, the next 3 draft picks are all resist ice. But you know, so like the type chart's really nice to see, because then I can see like, oh, you know, like maybe some teams I'm like super weak to, like, I don't know, fighting or ground or something. So the Ballhawk doc is incredible to use, so shout out to him for making it. That also goes into matchup planning, so like I use the doc now to plan against my opponents, just due to the sheer amount of information. Like also speed tiers is super important, so it just shows you that right off the bat, which is nice to see. Yeah, I did not use it this first season, so there was a lot to be desired in terms of those 2 aspects. And then in terms of like in-game play, my positioning the first season was not great. I don't know. I was like confusing speed tiers. Granted, I sometimes forget, you know, minus speed stats now and again. Or stat drops from speed and stuff, even now. But back then it was, finding the win conditions was not great. I've definitely learned a lot over the past couple seasons. And that first season was, whoo boy, looking back at some of those videos, some turns I'm like, what the heck are you doing? What's going on, man? And that all coupled with the fact that my speed control was terrible. I had no Tailwind, I had no Trick Room, and Escavalier was my only consistent answer against Trick Room, which means, you know, most opponents could just set Trick Room and just go berserk, and I would just have to sit there and take it. You know, my speed tiers weren't too bad for this team, and I actually liked a lot of the mons on this team. I don't think there was a ton of synergy, and I think I relied too heavily on like my top 4 mons, you know, dealing the most damage, and basically just like winning games, when in reality I needed more than just those 4 to win. So yeah, going 2-5 in the first season doesn't really surprise me, considering my lack of speed control and my poor positioning throughout matches. But it was a hell of a season. I had a great time. Even with the losses, you roll with the punches. It's all fun. Next up, we got Season 7, which was last season. The Daddy Plan Part 2. Again, you can see my team and the points that I spent at the bottom. I spent them all again. I was very happy with this team. You know, a record of 4-4 isn't too bad, and I won 9 games versus 9 losses, so super balanced. Just like my type chart, now that I was using the Ballhawk document, I could, you know, I could kind of see where the gaps were filling as I created my team, and I also ended up with 16 of 18 types. So I ended up with the vast majority of types on my team, which means I had stab access to almost every type in the game. My matchup planning was better. I was using the Ballhawk doc, like I said, so like I could actually visualize everything that was happening based on speed tiers and where some holes were in terms of like my opponent's weaknesses. Like maybe they were weak to ice on like, I don't know, 6 out of 11 mons or something. I think the main issue with this team specifically is that Disquake absolutely shredded through my team. There were multiple weeks I got hit by Disquake and it just ended me. Like between those two moves, I mean, I know those two moves are great offensively, but like I think most of my team gets absolutely destroyed by it, minus like Trevenant. So being aware of this season was basically like the Disquake disclaimer, where I realized that I gotta be more aware of like synergies like that. Because if I'm not, then people can just bring that for free and then mostly just smoke me. My positioning was much better this season than season 6, but obviously still needs work. I made it to quarterfinals in playoffs, so I actually qualified for playoffs this time with a 4-4, or I think it was a 4-3 record at the time. Yeah, which I was happy with. It was a vast improvement over my my last season where I went 2-5 and then won 4 games, lost 11. Now I won 9 games and lost 9. So that's a pretty big turnaround, and I was very happy with it. The only downside to this team, despite having Tailwind and Trick Room this time, was that my speed tiers were not great. So 106 being my fastest, which was Liepard, I believe, and then my slowest at 40 being Rhydon, meant that I was getting outsped and undersped by most teams in some regards. So this was the season of learning about speeds. Even though I had Prankster on Liepard, it was not you can't solve everything with Prankster and Fake Out. Sometimes natural speed is what you need to get the job done, and that's unfortunately what I did not anticipate for as I was drafting. And that brings us to the current season, season 8. No Paradox, no Ruin Mons, which we'll be getting to next season. I went 3-5 this season, so a little bit of a step down from 4-4, but I won 9 games and lost 11. My team type chart, really strong. I had great offensive mons. I had great defensive mons. My matchup planning, I felt a lot better about my matchup planning going into this. There were significantly less blowouts this season, so I wasn't getting 2-0'd, by everybody. In fact, there's only 2 2-0s against me, and that was Tay and Poppin. Every other match was either a win or a 3-game set that was a loss. So my positioning has gotten better. I'm feeling better about figuring out what my win conditions are. If I see a mon that is going to be the key to winning a game, I make sure I protect it, keep it safe. Switch out if I have to, and just finding out like what my opponent's trying to do and either prevent them from doing it or beat them before they get that done. And then my Tailwind Trick Room, I had mons for that as well. I had 1 Tailwind setter in Noivern and then 2 Trick Room setters in Slowking and Gardevoir. And my speed tiers were great. 130 being the highest base speed on my team is fantastic. There were only a few mons that outsped it in the format. And then 30 base speed, there's only a couple good mons that are below 30 base speed. You got like Hatterene and Torkoal. But other than that, Slowking was moving first in Trick Room the vast majority of the time. And I have in italics there Poetic Justice from draft next to Braff because I sniped him I think 3 times over the course of the draft. So it only makes sense that he whoops my ass in playoffs. So it's only fair. He got his payback. He got his. I got what was coming to me. So props to him for for owning me, for taking a bunch of his mons. But yeah, that brings us to the summary of the past 3 seasons. Season 6, I did not make playoffs, but season 7 and 8, I did. The season 8 record I have is worse than season 7, so as you can see, I got better from season 6 to season 7 in terms of my win record and my games won versus games lost. Season 8, though, looks a little suspicious. It looks like a step backward because I went 3-5 instead of 4-4. But guess what? I'm feeling really good because even though I lost an extra game, I still won the same amount of games as I did in season 7, which means that I went to more game 3s than I have before, which means that we're getting closer. We have closer sets. I'm super amped about that. At first glance, I was like, oh, 3-5 to 4-4. Ooh, no progress. Ooh, gross. But no, I'm happy with it. I'm happy to see 9 consecutive, well, not consecutive, but nine wins versus 11 losses by me having brought most games to 3-game sets. One, it's more hype. I love 3-game sets. Makes it more exciting on both ends. And I also, because I just love playing the game, so if I get to play more games, then it's a win for me, even if I lose. But yeah, 8 total sets. Half went to game 3. The other half were split between 2 2-0 wins and 2 0-2 losses. And one of those 0-2 losses was I had a misplay that cost me game 2, so I could have actually brought that to a game 3. Even if I still lost, it would have been one more win in the books. All that's to say, I noticed from my stats this season, if I won game 1, I won the set. If I lost game 1, I lost the set. And that stayed true for all 8 games throughout the season. So I was looking back at the actual games and the order in which I won them for each set, and I was like, oh wow. Win game 1, win the set. Lose game 1, lose the set. Psh, it's that easy? Okay, I just gotta win game 1. Obviously easier said than done, but considering I only won 3 games. But hey, I'm pretty stoked. I'm happy. I'm happy to be keeping games close. I'm not getting steamrolled like I was in season 6, where every loss was a 2-0 loss. Me getting smoked out here. The improvement is palpable. I can feel it. I can feel it in my bones, and it feels great. I'm super happy. And then next up, we got some fun stats and some season 9 goals to round it out. There are only 4 coaches I've played more than once. This is excluding coaches that I've only had 1 set with, and VBL-N season 3, which was Little Cup. I did not include any data from those. That being said, only 4 coaches have had more than 1 set against me. That being Poppin, Braff, Mono, and Sora. And you can see my records against them right there on the screen. Poppin getting the getting the award of never letting me take any games at all. In our 3 sets, I have not taken a single game. I've gotten 2-0'd all 3 times, once each season. So props to Poppin for that one. that's a cool stat. And then also Braff, I've also never beaten either. The first time I played him in season 6, got smoked because he was my week 1 opponent for my first draft season ever. So he absolutely gave me a nice warm welcome by holding this L. And then the past 2 seasons, or last season and this season, we've gone to game 3, but he has pulled the win out both times. So props to him again for never letting me take a set. I love a challenge. And then Mono and Sora, we've both played once. Mono and I both have gone given and taking a 2-0. So it's gone both ways. And then Sora's been 2 sets, both gone to game 3. I won 1, he's won 1. So whenever he returns to Draft League, it'll be on site. You know that. But yeah, Poppin and Braff every season, all set losses. My season 9 goals, one of them is to get the run back against both of them in the regular season or in playoffs, and maybe win. We always have great sets. I always have a good time regardless of outcome, but maybe we can fix those 0-3 records and maybe get a 1 in there. You know what I'm saying? We'll have to see. I don't know. I would love to. That is a goal if we can make it happen. I don't know, but I would love to make it happen. My next goal is to continue to draft strong teams. I've liked all 3 teams I've had each season. With type, stats, diversity. I think the only thing I got to be a little more aware of going forward is team synergy. I seem to always get punished by Disquake. Even this current team that I have is still fairly vulnerable to it. My first 2 mons are weak to ground, Jolteon weak to ground, and then I don't have a super huge electric weakness this time around, but I don't know. Disquake is really strong offensively, so I need to be able to prevent it and make sure I'm not getting smoked by one of the best combos in the game, or most I should say most common combos in the game for offensive output. So. I don't know. Yeah, I gotta pay more attention to synergy and have mons that can work well together. because other than just like setting speed control and then having my other mon take use of it. So we'll see. And that kind of ties into finding the win conditions and executing. I felt pretty solid with my prep overall this season, which I think helped me get to a lot of game 3s across the board, even if I lost. I think the execution is gonna need to improve, especially just because it's there are some crucial turns where I've had some serious misplays throughout the season. Not too many, but there were a few that I'm aware of that I just need to make sure I'm more aware of, like board state, you know, like what the speed tiers are, stat drops, all that, and make sure I'm taking in all the information that I have and using my brain to execute and get those wins. But overall, I've had improvement every season. I've had fun every season. That's the whole point. So let's keep that train rolling, and also take more game 1s, so that I'm more likely to win the set, because that would feel good. But yeah, those are my season 9 goals. Next up, to round out the video, we've got a logo change. Okay, I know, and here's the deal. This is partly why this took so long, is because I've never designed a logo before, and you know, again, they're not anything clearly, because like Plundering Berserkers, I got with a special, you know, font with just a regular image of Berserker in a black square, so like nothing crazy. And then the two new logos that I made were nothing crazy, but I've never done it before, so it wasn't a very fast process. It was very slow going, a lot of like Googling each step when doing stuff, just to kind of see, and then also some ideas I didn't like, so I scrapped them and then redid them. But yeah, so here's the deal. I have made 2 new logos, one of which is based on the Plundering Berserkers team name that I've had for 3 seasons now, and the other one is a new one, a new team name, and a new logo. And you will have the power to tell me which one you want. You can either leave it in the comments, you can either, you know, if you're in the Discord channel with VBL, you can message me in there, you can DM me, whatever you want, however you want to tell me. But I like both a lot, so I'm gonna need some help to figure out which one I'm gonna do for this upcoming season, which change is gonna be. So lo and behold, these are the 2 new logos that I created. The top one, like I said, is just based on the current one. It's nothing crazy. It's just, you know, change a little bit of the font, put it on a flag, because he's kind of like he's got like a pirate theme with the plundering going on. You know what I'm saying? And then the Granite State Scissors at the bottom there, which is, if you didn't know, New Hampshire is also known as the Granite State. So New Hampshire being where I live. So, but yeah, I was very happy. I actually had fun making these. They took me a lot of time and some patience in certain moments, because there were some things. I started using like Inkscape to make these, which is a free program, by the way, if you want to use it. But I like I didn't know how to use it at all, and it's like not really intuitive either. So I had to Google a lot of stuff to get a lot of this stuff to work. But yeah, these are what I came up with, and I like that, both of them personally. If you don't like either of them, you can also say that. If you want me to keep the original simple square, by all means, let me know. But I personally would prefer to go with one of the 2 new ones. So, yeah, let me know what you think. It's been a fantastic 3 seasons. I've been super happy to be here. I'm coming up on a year, like I said, in the draft league. So I can't say enough good things. I could drag this video out a lot longer, saying how appreciative I am and how much fun I've had over the past year. So I guess I'll just wrap it up with a huge thank you to everyone in the VBL-S and VBLN community, because I don't know, without you, the past year would not have been as fun. So here's to another year, and I'll see you guys in Season 9. Bye!